Hey folks, welcome back to my lifting series where I record every single set and rep that I possibly can. This is week 3, day 3 of my Myomax training program. This is a true hypertrophy program, start to finish. I record everything so you guys can totally follow along if you want, but if you want to either support me or you want the document for yourself, you can purchase it in the description down below. It's just $10. So pretty affordable, I think. This series is really just so that I can become the best lifter and become the healthiest version and best version of myself. But along the way, like I'm giving insights, I'm learning my best, and I'm trying to share all the information that I know with you guys. I like to think that I know a thing or two about lifting. So, I'm trying to help you guys out and myself. So it's kind of like a two-way street. We're kind of in this together if you think about it. Today is an accessory day. So we're hitting shoulders and arms, and I believe that we got some abs at the end. And I'm starting with the seated machine shoulder press. Before I get into it, I just want to briefly talk about the reason why I like doing shoulder presses over just doing flies, because I feel like nowadays more and more people are just choosing to do fly work. And the difference is that a fly is just working your shoulder joint. So it's more of an isolation lift versus a shoulder press as a compound lift, because you're not only working the front head and the lateral head of the deltoids with a shoulder press, but you're also getting some tricep and potentially some upper trap and the clavicular, the upper portion of the chest as well in there. So you're really hitting so many different muscle groups versus, a lateral raise or a front raise is pretty much just exclusively going to be working the deltoid. I like to include a little bit of both, because obviously if you only do pressing, then it's going to become very challenging for your muscular system over time and recovery system. So it's nice to have a little bit of both. Anyways, I'm going up by 10 pounds today. I hit like a pretty big landmark last time, 2 plates on each side. So I count that as, I don't know how much the handles weigh, but it can't be much. So I'm not even counting it. So I count that as like 180. So this is 190. Okay, we're gonna count that as 8. So that's a win in my book, because last week I got 180 for all 3 sets. This is just a 10-pound PR on each rep. That's how I like to quantify volume, is sets times reps times weight. So I can't do it off the top of my head, especially while talking to you guys, but that's like, it's honestly, it's not that hard. It's 80 pounds in excess per set if I continue up this. And if any of you are struggling, like you kind of hit a wall with a certain lift and you really want to excel at it, say you do 2 plates on each side for the bench press, 225 pounds, and you can only get it for 5 reps, and you've been stuck there for like a month and it's just not budging at all. I think there's like 2 schools of thought there. You can either change out the exercise and come back to it later, or you could, maybe it's 3 schools of thought, because you could change out the exercise, or you could like drop the weight and change up the rep ranges, or change up your grip, change something about the exercise. Or lastly, you could try smaller weight increments. When I was really big into strength training, I actually purchased online these like 1.25 pound little baby weights, and I keep them in my gym bag at all times, just to like assist with my strength training, because I find that having like smaller incremental increases can be a great thing if you plateaued. So you'll notice like I'm doing bigger jumps, but whenever I end up plateauing, which I'm sure will happen eventually, I'm definitely gonna try those either 1.25 or 2.5 or something out, just to like slow down that progression, but still have it be worthwhile, because I think that sometimes your muscular system requires something a little bit smaller than you may be wanting to increase by. Anyway, set numero dos. Even after I hit failure, I always try for one more rep just to make sure that I've like used every bit of gas in the tank, just to ensure that I'm doing the most. I don't do that with every single lift. Like, you know, squats are pretty tough to do that on, because squats literally take everything you have. So at the very end, like you can't even crank anything else out. But, you know, honestly, I should probably be doing that for squats too. However, it's just easier to do that on like upper body lifts, I find. Two more. Come on. All right, well, so far it's a great start to my workout. You know, PR on the first 3 sets. It's better than I can say for, I think, the last 2 workouts. I would PR, but I would go down I would PR in terms of weight, but I'd go down in terms of reps. So I was like, did I actually PR or did I just adjust what I was doing? But this one is a true PR. I mean, that's progressive overload in a nutshell. Increased the weight, keep the reps the same. As long as you're increasing something, you need to clear. Okay, now moving on to the barbell bicep curl. I'm using the easy bar, and I mentioned this before, but I like the easy bar more than the like conventional straight bar, just because it puts your wrists into a more relaxed position and doesn't really strain them. I find that with the straight bar, when you're going up, it just feels so like it's almost a little bit painful to do it that way. And I think that that exercise was probably so popular because obviously there were like conventional barbell straight bars before the easy bar was ever invented. And that's why people tend to gravitate towards that just out of history's sake. However, I really don't see a downside to using the easy bar. It just feels better for me. The only difference would be like when you're using the easy bar, since you're in that more relaxed position, you're not getting full supination in that like peak contraction at the bicep at the very top, which, you know, it probably lends itself a little bit to growth, but I don't think that it's like the end all be all. Like if you don't include that top supination, like little forearm twist, that you are going to be like totally ruining your bicep development and strength development as a result. I think that for me, I weigh the pros and the cons, and I find that the easy bar is just the way to go. But please make up your own mind, evaluate the pros and cons. You know, with a straight bar, you get a little bit more of that supination, but you're still not getting that full supination. So maybe if you want the full supination, maybe dumbbell curls are the way to go for you. Anyways, I'm keeping the weight the same because we're going up in sets today, and last time it was already difficult enough. So we're going from 2 sets to 3. I'm gonna be trying to hit 10 straight repetitions and then 3 or more cheat reps at the end. Okay, now for the cheat reps. Let's go for 4. All right, and then if you guys have been following along, you'll know that, or if you have the program, you'll know that I like to superset my bicep work with some forearm work. So I'm flipping around, carrying the bar from behind, and I'm gonna do some wrist curls. Ooh. Okay. Now we rest. You know, people love arm intensity techniques more than any other body part. And it makes sense because arms, they're fun to train and they're relatively easy to add in an intensity technique just because it's not so overly fatiguing that it almost becomes fun. However, there's one intensity technique that I don't agree with, and this is probably going to start a little bit of some chaos, and it's 21s. So you know where you do 7 at the top, 7 at the bottom range of motion, and then 7 full reps. I have so many issues with that. Like, if you're a beginner in the gym and you try it out, like, you think that it's the best thing ever because it causes a huge pump and it feels really good. And it makes you think that you're doing like the most and that you're getting the most out of it. But that couldn't be further from the truth. Why would you stop your range of motion shy right here? You're not getting very much out of this part of the range of motion at all. And why would you stop it down right here? You're only getting the stretched portion. So you're actually losing. I mean, down here is a little bit better than up here, just because it is in like that more lengthened position. You're not even stretched at that point, but it's more lengthened. But you're still missing out on half of the range of motion. Only by the time that you do the full range of motion, that's where it's at. That's where you're gonna be getting a tremendous amount of growth. But the issue with that is that by the time you're doing the full range of motion, you're already so gassed from the partials that you can't actually do as many reps as you could if you just did a straight set. So I just think that it's all wrong. If you want to like get a killer pump, then do what I'm doing, or do a drop set, or do a rest pause set. You know, either take it to failure, then do a few cheat reps, because honestly, I just did that and the pump is incredible. Do that, or do your straight set and then drop down and do like a different bar with like less weight, like 40% less weight, 30% less weight. Or just take a little break and then go again. Sorry about that little rant. I'm not a fan of 21s. And like I said, when I first started lifting, I loved it just because I didn't know any better. But now that I know the science behind it and I've seen the studies and I know what really works and what doesn't, I'll tell you that's not the most effective way to train. If you're just looking to have fun, then by all means though. All right, let's get into set number 2. Okay, now cheat reps. One little form tidbit that I'm trying to remind myself at the end of each rep. When I'm all the way down, I'm doing a ever so slightly flex of my triceps, because when you contract your triceps at the end, you know that you're enacting as much elbow extension as possible. And when your elbow is fully extended, that's when your biceps are fully lengthened. And that's what you want. You want to be hitting either ends of the spectrum when it comes to range of motion. You want the lengthened position and also the shortened position in spades. So by contracting my triceps at the bottom, I'm making sure that I hit that bottom range. And then when I'm contracting my biceps at the top, I know that I'm contracting and getting the full range of motion for that top range. I think that that's just a good way to ensure that you're actually completing your reps, because I see so many guys and girls when they're down here, they stop like right here instead of completing the rep. And I get it why they do that. They do it because they want to squeeze out more reps and be able to say that they can do more than they actually can. It's like when people do pull-ups, but they only go down to here instead of all the way down. It's just so that they can crank out more and they can say that they did something and that it's more impressive. But if you guys actually care about your progress and care about your lifting journey, then don't shortchange yourselves. Make sure that you're being honest with yourself and going all the way down and whatnot. So, you know, I was gonna rest a little longer, but I think that in a few seconds I'll be good to go. So I'm just gonna keep it rolling and then we're gonna get after it. One other thing that comes to mind regarding bicep training is, for me, I didn't warm up. I didn't go up in weights at all. I mean, this is my second lift, but I didn't actually warm up my biceps. I may be totally wrong in that and I may be making an error. However, I performed to my best ability in that first set. And biceps, I feel like it's hard to injure yourself with a bicep curl. I feel like when people injure their biceps, it tends to be either like doing a deadlift when they're holding so much weight or doing like a back movement of some sort. It doesn't seem to be on an actual bicep curl. Now, I could be wrong, but that's just what I've observed, because most people, unless they're doing like every rep is a cheat rep and they're really swinging, they're not going to be doing that much weight. They're just not. The human bicep isn't the strongest muscle in the body. You know, it's not nearly as strong as any of the muscles in the lower body, to be honest. So I don't think that the injury probability is really that high unless you're being dumb. And therefore, since I'm still like getting as much intensity as I want out of the first sets, I don't think that warming up is necessary. It's just, in my eyes, well, it's not really a waste of time. I feel like my time could be better well spent. All right. Third and final set of this. All right, now for some sheet reps. All right, let's move on to something a little easier, shall we? All right, I finally made it to the cable machine. I love the cables because they provide like such a good mechanical tension stimulus upon your musculature without actually fatiguing you like over the edge, over the limit. Something like, you know, conventional compound lifts, especially of the free weight variety, they have like a very high stimulus, but also a very high fatigue ratio going on. But cables, it's like a pretty decent stimulus, like a pretty high stimulus, but it doesn't have that fatigue component. So anyway, let's just get right into it. I'm sticking to the same weight for the lateral raises, 17.5, and then I'm going up on the unilateral cable tricep extension, going up by 5 pounds, because last time I got 12 reps, which is again on the upper end for me. I like to kind of, I rarely go above 12 reps, to be honest. Anyway. believe today, I'll have to double check Myomax, but I believe that I'm going up to 3 sets for this exercise because each week goes up by 1 set per body part. This is week 3, so we're up to 16 sets per body part. I could be wrong about that though, I gotta double check. Okay, even though the form was a little bit more sloppy than I would have preferred, I'm still happy with that. And I'll tell you why. It's because I got 13 reps instead of 12. Last time I got 12 reps. So, like I was saying earlier, progressive overload, you just got to increase one training variable. In this case, the form was just as similar as the previous times I've done it. So, since I increased the reps, that's actually progressive overload right there. So that's how I count it. All right, 5-pound jump on the cable extensions, unilateral style. So I actually don't remember how many reps I was doing on this exercise, and I'm almost kind of glad about that because I mentioned this before, but I'll keep saying it like a broken record. Whenever I have a certain rep goal in mind, like, oh, I need to hit 12, then I tend to like kind of, for better or worse, rush through it, hit that 12 repetition mark, and then give up. And that's not the right way to approach lifting. Basically, how you want to approach lifting is you want to give it as much as you have each and every time you do a set, regardless of what rep goal you may or may not be trying to achieve. So by not actually remembering how many reps I did last time I did this exercise and just going until I couldn't go anymore, I didn't get that mental barrier or that mental trick that I usually have going through my head of, oh, I need to hit 7, I need to hit 8, and then give up. I just went all the way, no strings attached. I still recommend writing down reps because you need something to be able to track progress. But in this case, I think it was a good thing as long as I did improve, you know. So that time I actually got 11, which is 1 rep more than the other arm got. And this is another thing that I've brought up in the past, but for whatever reason, if I hit like a certain rep goal on one arm and I'm doing it like unilateral style, and I go to the next arm, I'm tempted to stop at that same rep just to keep things even. I don't know if you guys are the same way, but that's how it works for me. So I'm trying to get out of that mindset, and this is a way that I'm trying to improve as a lifter. You should be taking your sets to failure regardless of what your right or left arm may have achieved versus the opposing arm. Anyway, same goes true for leg training and any unilateral type of movements, you know? Okay, so during my short rest period, I inspected Myomax, and it is true, we're doing 3 sets on this one. So better make it count, right? Each week gets more and more intense, but your body should be acclimating to the program as you go anyway.
That's what I was saying. You do it all the time. You can't judge me.
Ah, shit. My hands are getting a little sweaty, so unfortunately, I started to lose my grip there, so I lost kind of that stability component. Fortunately, I ran into some difficulties earlier, so I had to change positioning here, but we're gonna finish the workout nonetheless. It's crazy how different some cable machines feel versus others. Okay. All right. The same machine. It's nice that you can just use the same machine, so I don't actually require, having the dual cable setup. Gonna move on to the triceps. Jeez. I spoke about lifting gloves in the past, and I'm almost tempted to have them just because of this sweat component. But, honestly, like chalk is a good substitution as well. I should probably start carrying a little bit of chalk. My hands are gonna keep sweating profusely like this. Okay, moving on, we're doing an arm superset. And I've said it before, but I really like supersetting arms, biceps to triceps, because since they're antagonistic muscle groups, one's on the anterior side and one is on the posterior side of the body. While you're working with one, the other one is inherently resting. So like while you're doing a curl, you're not going to be using your triceps at all in that motion. So it's just a great superset, I think, because I think the real benefit of a superset is to save time. And you're definitely saving time. And, saving time with the caveat of you're not trying to overly fatigue yourself and drop the effort and performance. Forgot to mention we're doing the unilateral Bayesian curl superset with the standing bilateral bar extension with the cable. And I'm actually going up, so I'm going up, I think, like 2.5 on the standing bilateral cable extension, and then 3 pounds on the cable Bayesian curl. They're kind of odd jumps, like 2.5 and 3, kind of an odd jump. But the reason is because I'm using a different cable machine, and the weights are just a little bit different here. All right, last set of these. Let's make it count, shall we? Try not to tip my body too much, because that'll engage other muscles in the movement. You know, I preach stability, so much stability this, stability that. And while I do think that it's a generally good idea to have more stability rather than not on most movements, sometimes a lack of stability can be a feature in of itself, as long as the exercise is still worthwhile. So adding a lesser stable bicep movement into my routine isn't just like a lack of thought behind it or something. It's not a misstep. I did it for a reason. I wanted a little bit of uniqueness and variety in there. It's nice to have kind of both ends of the spectrum when it comes to lifting movements. All right. Ah, dang, that was my bad. Pause the video and see if you can figure out where my mistake lied. Give you a couple seconds. Basically what happened there was I stopped the movement at the top and racked it instead of completing that last eccentric. I think that last eccentric is very important, actually. You know, every part of the rep is important, but especially the eccentric, especially when you reach failure, because that's really going to cause the most muscle growth possible, is that last eccentric of the final rep, and especially on the final set. All right, guys, so all that's left is actually a few sets of the hanging leg raises, and then a couple sets of machine side lateral, the seated one, and then machine crunches. And honestly, like, I don't think that's the most entertaining stuff to watch, and it's not like super specific to this workout anyway. You know, obviously like abs are important and stuff, but just out of convenience factor, I think I'm gonna choose not to film it. But it's there. That's what I'm gonna be doing. That's what I'm gonna be finishing off with. So if you guys are following along, then please do it. Don't skip it out, because I do think that while your abs are developed a lot, and you definitely gain a lot of strength in your abdominals, in your core, through compound lifts like squats and deadlifts and barbell bent over rows and stuff like that. I do think that ab training is very important, and I've actually changed my tune on this. I used to think that, oh, you don't need ab training, direct ab training, because you're hitting it well enough on the compound movements, on those really big movement patterns. However, I think that if your goals are more aesthetically driven instead of just performancely driven, then I think that doing crunches and hanging leg raises and, you know, all that stuff is very, very important, especially if you don't have the genetics or your abs are just kind of like more on the surface and more visible, like some people are blessed with. So anyway, that's going to conclude week 3, day 3, the accessory day. Tomorrow we're going to be hitting upper body again for week 3, day 4. So stay tuned for that. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you later.